A dancer, a creative catalyst, a coach, a producer, a scientist, an arts advocate, and a content creator. All these titles melded in create the unique, beautiful, creative personality that we are going to welcome tonight. Her own journey in finding healing through arts has led to great positive changes that she is bringing into the society today. With over 25 years of dance training, performing, choreographing, and coaching, she is creating spaces for dancers to thrive through her classes, workshops, and performance team. She has completed her master's in dance science and did her research in hip hop and street dance battle style. During this time itself is when she co-founded and directed Open Your Mind London, an international experimental dance festival. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a student of life, continually chasing curiosity. Let's welcome Emi Lou. Welcome to the show, Emi, and I'm so glad to have you here today, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, which is all about hip hop. So, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because whenever someone tells me all of the things that I've done, I also can't believe it. So it's really nice to hear, but it shows that like my whole life is reflective of the passion that I have for dance and the passion that I have for expression and art, and also just the hip hop scene in particular. So I'm just, pleased that I've been able to experience all that I've done in my life. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here to share about it too.
I'm so glad you could make it. So quickly, what we're gonna do now is we are gonna play a quick rapid fire so that everyone here knows you better. Let's get started. Are you ready for the rapid fire?
I am ready for the rapid fire.
Okay, let's start. Describe Emi in one word.
Energetic.
Emi the dancer, Emi the coach, or Emi the producer?
Ooh, Emi the dancer.
One thing you love about the dance the most?
Freedom.
One thing you hate about the dance the most?
Ooh, technique.
I guess your students are hearing this.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. If not dance industry, then it would be?
Oh my gosh. Art.
That's almost overlapping.
I know, but I meant like painting. Something
The painting.
Like,
okay.
yeah.
So, very obvious, but your favorite dance form?
Yeah, hip hop. Hip hop.
Okay. Now, not so obvious. What's your second favorite dance form?
Currently, I'm really into Afro.
Oh, nice. Okay. The last and the very interesting question I'm personally very interested in. Who's your role model
Oh my gosh.
in the field of dance?
Oh my gosh, that is, oh wow, that's really hard to pick like one person.
I know.
This is really hard.
You're running out of time.
Well, I had somebody pop into my head. It's actually a couple that I just really respect. So they're Keone and Mari Madrid. They are phenomenal movers. They started in hip hop, but yeah, they are just really paving a new way, and they're also going in a different direction with using film nowadays. But yeah, that's my really long answer of just how awesome I think they are in pioneering dance. Yeah. So there's my answer.
Okay, so let's move forward and let's begin. For what you are here. So we're here to talk about hip hop. So let's start with something very basic for all the people, all the newbies who are not very well aware of different dance forms. So what is hip hop exactly?
What is hip hop? That is such a loaded question, but it really did start at a time and a place that was very much a reflection of the context of the times. So hip hop began basically as a cultural movement in the Bronx around the 1970s, 1980s. And it really did come from a place of oppression with minority youth, Black and Latino culture. Yeah, there was a lot of pressure basically there weren't a lot of resources for the youth at the time, and so they had to kind of react to it, and what they did was they reacted in an artistic form. So the four pillars of hip hop that kind of emerged at that time is graffitiing, emceeing, DJing, and then breakdancing. So those are kind of the four fundamental elements of hip hop.
I think very well said, and I think it's a very interesting fact that you brought up. I don't think a lot of people know that graffiti, emceeing, all these things, DJing, all these things are a part of the hip hop culture. All these fields in itself are very evolved and getting a lot of traction. But I think still people don't know that they belong to a same family or they belong to a same culture. So I think very interesting on that part. So, is there a specific area wherein this evolved geographically?
Yeah, so basically it was New York City, basically 1970s, 1980s that the movement began. So that's kind of where it was cultivated first. But then you'll see different parallels of other street styles coming up, which aren't technically hip hop, but they've kind of been clumped under the hip hop umbrella because they are street styles. So there's been kind of a parallel story of kind of like popping and locking styles in the West Coast that kind of emerged because every city has some sort of kind of oppressive structure, and so those youth at the time, how they reacted to it was through creativity and expression. But yeah, most simply, hip hop's birthplace is understood across the board that it began in New York City, in the Bronx.
That's interesting. That's nice. It's a very new dance form, and I think comparatively it has gone and grown across countries and it has grown across cultures. But do you think that there is some facts, there is some technique, or there is some systems that have been lost, or there are some myths that exist in hip hop?
That's a really good question because, yeah, there's different trains of thought within the community. There's obviously people who've been around for a long time. Some of the creators are kind of dying off, but the originals, so we'll call them the OGs, there are people that are very steadfast about like, oh, we have to keep the technique, and oh, we know we have to like abide by the standard that was set long ago. But because of all of this influence from its natural expansion, there is new trains of thought that are like, oh, a little more open to exploring some evolution within the dance. But honestly, even with that said, there is an innate respect about the foundations. So even when you go to some place like Europe where hip hop is being, taught, they really take it seriously over there. They really do make it a point to teach the foundations and the history. And so it is being honored in the education and the training. But with that said, there's still, evolution of its own kind, because even if you teach it in a different context like Europe, there's going to be different influences from their own society and history and the context and all that stuff. So it is really interesting to see how it's evolving in each place, but still the roots of it, the core of the essence of the culture being about expression and like release is being honored. So yeah.
I think that's very well put forward by you. And what I understand, I think it's about all dance forms, that it's on interpretation of the teacher, of the choreographer, of the dancer. Everyone interprets the same thing in a very different way. And since it's an art form, it's very difficult being objective about it. It's a very subjective matter, and it's a very open to interpretation matter, what I feel. So I think the evolution is a part of this form, and all the dance forms, and rather the complete art industry as such. So I think very rightly said. But is hip hop gender specific, or is it age specific?
That's a good question. I guess the short answer is no, it's not gender specific, but historically you will have seen a lot more masculine presence in the development of the culture. But with that said, B-boys started the culture, but there were also B-girls that were, doing their thing in the early, 1970s, 1980s. But yeah, nowadays it is pretty open, but I will say it did take a long time for like kind of females to kind of come more to the forefront, to be a lot more open. And age-wise, no, there isn't really an age-specific requirement to do hip hop. The people who are the OGs in the scene are still doing hip hop because to them it's a lifestyle. It's not just a dance form.
Very rightly said. So, I mean, what I understand across dance forms, that every dance form, obviously it requires your complete body strength and body flexibility and everything. But then, different dance forms have like different classifying elements, which I'll say, let's say more of your leg work that is required or more of your hand work, that's 70%. So, is there such a thing in hip hop that you can say that 70% of your dance is your shoulders, or is your hands, or is your fingers, or is your feet, legs, thighs, knees, whatever?
Honestly, it is your entire body. There isn't really any specific part that's used more. It also depends on what kind of styles, what other street styles you kind of gravitate towards. So there's, amongst those are like crump and whacking and house, and each of those have different demands on the body. So for example, house dancing is a lot of like this groove that you have, but it's all about like footwork. And so there's a lot of attention to your lower body, but with whacking, it uses a lot of hand movements. So there's a lot of like, a lot of boom, 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 that kind of stuff. But I guess like hip hop in its purest form is really just about like the groove and the core of your body. And then everything else that you do with your body is just kind of like supplemental. But if you go into form like breaking, that is like a whole very athletic, sport. I would say it's like almost like a sport, because it is so demanding on the body, and you have to have really, really good control and just stamina and endurance. So it ranges on like what kind of expression you want to pursue, what demands it will have on your body.
Makes sense. I think that really helps. So my last question is for all the people who want to learn dance, who want to learn hip hop. Is there a right medium that you can suggest?
I think the best way to get into hip hop, I mean, yes, there's like little tutorials here and there on Google that you can search for, but the best way to learn hip hop is really to go to somebody local, because the whole hip hop dance form is so integrated with the culture, so you kind of have to like be a part of it in real life to really understand what it all means. And the only way to really like understand that and embody it is through like tutorship, right? To have like a mentor, to have somebody who's been doing it for a while and can teach you all of it, because it's kind of doing a disservice to the art form when you just are learning the moves and you're not understanding anything about the history or the social aspect of it, because that's where the art form thrives, like in the streets, in events and battles where people come together and they, push each other on to be better and to have conversations on the battle floor and stuff like that. So once you start going to classes, then you'll be aware of different events, different jams, different sessions that you can be a part of, and then that'll be the best way to learn. And that's honestly how people have learned over the years. I would not necessarily recommend Googling it, because you'll just, you'll be doing yourself a disservice as well.
I think though I have a lot of questions still in my head, but in the interest of time, I would have to stop there. And before we give all the people the surprise, anything that you would want to tell about hip hop, any particular incident, anything, any note from your end, any tip, anything you have?
For me, hip hop is just about really connecting with yourself. It is a place, a space that gives you permission to do that and to do it in whatever way you please. So yes, there's a foundation, and yes, there's certain moves that you should probably learn, but at the core of it, it's about community, and it's about expression, and being able to just be yourself in this space. And so when if you are new to hip hop, just go into it with that kind of open mind mentality, and you'll see how much it's going to really enrich your life because of that. So yeah, that's my tip.
I really loved your tip. Okay, so let's move on to the final surprise package, which is a master dance step by Emi, which is gonna teach us right now. So we are all gonna stand up and try this dance step with Emi, which is coming directly from Texas by Emi Lou. So Emi, let's start. I am super excited.
So this is a super basic move. I feel like, I chose a basic move because obviously anybody could do it, right? But this move is a super, original move. It's called the prep. Okay. So just to kind of prep you on the prep, it's really just about the groove. That's the most important thing. And then once you get the groove, then anything that you want to add on is your own personal flavor. And that's, of course, welcome in hip hop, because that's what it's all about. Expressing yourself and exchanging. So just imagine yourself being at, a party, right? Because that's kind of what happens. And I'm going to back up so that everybody can see me. So here we are in the club or at a party on the street, right? And so basically you're just gonna go from side to side. You're gonna bounce down, and then bounce down, right? So I'm kind of like bending my knees a little bit to help me kind of really get into the bounce, but the focus is on going down, down, right? Down, down. So once you kind of get that going, right? You can be like, oh, hey my friend. Oh, hey, how's it going? So the part that becomes a little more advanced is when you add the hands, okay? So just think of it as you're brushing your face. You're brushing your face. You're brushing your face. The next part is adding whatever you want to do, right? So we got the basics. So you can brush your shoulders, brush your shoulders. And I know it's super basic, but when you add a lot more to it, like you really go into the bounce, and you can really add your hands, so whatever you want to do. You can fix your hair, you can really add a dip. So it's really about whatever you want to add to it. And that's the funnest part about hip hop, where it's like you can do whatever you want and just feel confident in it. And then all of a sudden you're dancing hip hop. Easy as that. So just boom, 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 boom. Should I add some music?
With that, I think let's wrap up our session, and we are soon gonna come back with you for the next session also, because I think we had an awesome session. We should have one more.
Yeah.
I think people are also gonna love it so much. So I think if you all loved Emi, and you should go and follow her. All the links to her social media handles are here in the description box. So just go follow her, go follow us on Instagram, Dancescapes by Srishti. And you'll have a lot of more amazing videos coming up your way, and you can attend a lot of interesting sessions by Emi, which she does a lot of great content that she creates on regular basis. So yeah, let's keep going, let's keep dancing, and Thank you so much, Emi, for joining us, and it was total fun session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Keep dancing.
Okay, bye.